These are going to be our top 12 wide receiver rankings. We're each going to quickly say our, ranking at the position we're talking about. And if we all happen to agree, we're not really going to discuss much about it. But if we happen to have disagreements on who's like number two or three or four, then, we'll get into a little bit of discussion there. So my number one wide receiver going into week six, it's going to be Jamar Chase for me. Simple, New York Giants.
That's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think Jamar's finally starting to look like himself. I think the Giants secondary is not great. The run defense is good. I'm not feeling good about Zach Moss or Chase Brown this week. I think it's gonna be a pass heavy game from Cincy. I agree with you, Jamar Chase.
Yeah, you got to feel bad for the Bengals. I mean, 1-4, and all four of their losses are just absolutely heartbreaking. But I mean, after what Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and really T. Higgins too, I mean, 2 touchdowns, but what Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow did last week was incredible. And that's against the Baltimore Ravens as a Super Bowl contending team. This is the New York Giants. I think Jamar Chase absolutely dominates once again.
Oh yeah. All right. My number two is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown going up against the Dallas Cowboys. What do we think?
Hunter or me? I can go.
Yeah, I got
Um,
it. Hey, you go. Go ahead.
sure. I know you guys have the same 1, 2, 3. I actually have Amon-Ra at 3. I have CeeDee Lamb at 2. I'm not high on the Lions secondary. I think they have a great team. But CD minus, I guess, Jalen Tolbert last week has been the only option for Dak. And he's been really good. I don't really have much else to say on him. He's still like, a top pick when we're drafting, top 5, top 3 even. So I have CD Lamb against the Lions. I know it's a tough matchup, but I do have Amon-Ra, who he's playing, at number 3. They're well rested. They're coming off the bye week. Like we said in our running back rankings, go check out that video. It's an injured Dallas defense, so I think those 2 and 3 are interchangeable. I mean, Hunter, if you want to get into 2 and 3, since we're on that topic, but
Yeah,
yeah, CD at 2 and Amon-Ra at 3 for me.
yeah. Mark and I have the same 2 and 3. Amon-Ra 2, CD at 3.
Yep.
Both are coming against each other, oddly enough.
Yeah,
Um, both of them secondaries are relatively weak at this time. Deron Bland is still hurt for the Cowboys, and Trayvon Diggs coming back from an injury. I believe he'll be playing this week. But who knows who's gonna be guarding? Could be Jameson Williams, could be someone else. He's not gonna be shadowing Amon-Ra the whole time. Amon-Ra is one of the most consistent receivers in the league. So short to medium route beast, PPR monster. I think that'll stay the same for this week. CeeDee Lamb, as I said, Detroit Lions, really, they don't have many weaknesses on their team, but if I had to pinpoint one, probably be their secondary. CeeDee Lamb, one of the best receivers in general in the league. Really, the consensus number one drafted receiver going into the season. I wouldn't say he's been that level, but he's been pretty much in that same kind of tier. He's still having an excellent season, and I think he'll shine once again against the Lions.
Yeah. All right. I don't really need to say who my number three is because it is CeeDee Lamb, and for all the same reasons you guys already talked about. So let's move on to number four. For me, it's gonna be Malik Neighbors. I know they're going up against the Bengals, but their defense is not the star of the show, it's the offense. And I think even if the Giants don't score that many touchdowns, I think Malik Neighbors has proven that he can get you there with just his receiving and target volume. So what do you guys think?
yeah.
So this is my first, I guess, kind of disagreement by like a couple spots actually. Um, so my number 4 is actually AJ Brown, but since we're on the
I got
neighbors,
him at 5, so it's not that far off. But
okay, yeah,
yeah,
but I have neighbors actually at number 7.
okay.
Which obviously is still you're still in top 10. That's good stuff, especially for a rookie. So I still think Neighbors going to play very solid against the Bengals secondary that really is kind of towards like the bottom of the league, if you will. But I'm not sure if he's going to be a top 5 player this week. Really as simple as that.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mark on this one. I have Blake Neighbors. He's my guy. I got him at 4. Assuming he clears concussion protocol, same reasons as you. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. The Bengals do not have a good defense. I don't like their secondary. Like I said, for Jamar Chase, it's going to be a pass heavy game. The Giants want to win, they got to throw. Daniel Jones threw downfield last week. He found Darius Slayton at times. Wandell was okay. They didn't have Neighbors and they won. You add a player like Malik Neighbors into that offense against a Seattle defense, I think they have a shot against the 1-4 Bengals. So, assuming he clears concussion protocol, I think we're getting another really good week out of Malik Neighbors, probably one of the better rookies this year. So I got him at 4, and I'll just say it since I already mentioned it and Hunter mentioned it. I got AJ Brown at 5 because I know we're going there next. He's playing the Browns. Myles Garrett's going to be important in the rush defense, but I don't like the Browns secondary either. He's finally back, right? He's been hurt. Like the Browns defense, I don't think we'll be able to stop him. So I just feel like Jalen Hurts is going to be targeting him a lot. So I got AJ Brown at 5.
Yeah, just real quick, because I only like said I have AJ and I just moved on to Malik, but pretty much all the same reasons that you said about AJ. I think this is definitely a favorable matchup for him. I mean, Cleveland's secondary is obviously definitely one of the better secondaries, but still, I still see him tearing it up. Probably not the best wording considering it a hamstring issue for tearing, but um,
Well, hopefully he's not tearing that,
no, but
Yeah.
it's good to see that he'll be back.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to necessarily make up for 2 games worth of points, but I still see him putting up at least 17.
So AJ Brown's your number 5.
AJ Brown is my number 4, and he's Adam's 5.
I got him at 5. I had Neighbors at
Wow.
4 and Brown at 5.
Okay. Let's move on to number 5 then. I think this is where things are going to start to get a little interesting. I got Drake London at 5, man. I mean, like, it's hard not to be excited about what Kirk Cousins is doing in Atlanta right now. And I think Atlanta finally figured out their offensive scheme. We talked about Bijan Robinson. He's going to be running the ball, and I think he's going to be doing his thing against the Panthers. But I mean, like, you can't just not throw the ball when you got Drake London doing his thing, man. Like,
It was funny too.
he's the
He was
number one guy.
concussed. He was concussed last week, and everybody was like, "Oh, will he come back?" And then he came back, and look what he did. Like I can't. I hate to say it because he killed me, but you've been saying it for weeks, Mark. Like I have him a lot lower on my. He does crack my top 10, but
Let's
I
just,
don't.
yeah,
I don't hate it.
real,
I mean, he had a
real
great
quick.
week.
Week 1, he had 3 fantasy points. Definitely was a league loser for you, and I definitely panicked a little bit, but I was like, let's hold the phone a little bit. Let's see what happens. Then he put up 17, then 18, then 13, then 33. I mean, like, I just, he's giving you a floor of about 15 fantasy points a game, but with the 33 fantasy points, he's averaging 17 fantasy points, on average in PPR leagues. So I just think, this is just going to be the start of the Falcons really picking it up, their offensive scheme. So Drake London is at 5 for me.
All right. Drake London, slight difference for me. I have him at number 6. I'm not going to say that I'm a Drake London hater by any means, but I'm definitely not as much of a Drake London lover as Mark is.
I would word that the exact same on my end. So
yeah. It's clear that everyone's kind of been hyping him up, saying, "Oh, this is the breakout season for him." And so far, I mean, after first couple weeks, that didn't look like the case, but past couple, yeah, it looks like he's getting really on track, and I'm excited to have him be in that top 10. And I definitely see it as a realistic option for him. I mean, I have him at number 6. I think that's pretty fair, and he's going against the Panthers. This is one of the worst teams, if not the worst teams in the league, one of the worst secondaries as well. So I definitely could see him being even higher than that. But for now, I'm going to keep him at number 6. But my number 5, since I guess we're going in that kind of order, we're going to go with Jaden Reed. It's kind of a surprising one.
I like that. I like that pick.
Yeah, Packers, going into the season, everyone's like, oh, Packers have like 5 receivers and they all do the same amount of like stuff, same amount of yards or whatever. But there's clearly one that has emerged as the leader, and that's Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
Packers are definitely one of the most underrated teams in the league right now. offensively and defensively, especially defensively. But offensively, it's good that Jordan Love is back after being out for a couple weeks. And it's clear that Jaden Reed is certainly a favorite receiver of his. He's been excellent, he's been consistent. And I could definitely see him tearing it up once again on Sunday as they play the Cardinals, who are definitely one of the worst secondaries and just defenses in the league.
Yeah, I have Reed 2 spots down at 7. A lot of the same reasons against the Cardinals. He's made the case for being the wide receiver one. When we started the season, we didn't know if it'd be Christian Watson. We didn't know if it'd be Romeo Dobbs, maybe Dontavian Wicks, right? But Jaden Reed has made the case that he is the wide receiver one, and I agree with you. Jordan Love's healthy now, and now with him being along with Tucker Kraft, one of the team's top targets. I think he's definitely due for a big week, and continuing to kind of stay on the pace or road, if you will, that he's been on the last 2 weeks. He's had really good performances, and like you said, against the Cardinals secondary, that's not great. Um, I think he should have another really big week. So that's why I have him in my top 10 as well at 7. But I'll jump backwards because I mentioned I have AJ Brown at 5. I'll go to my number 6. I have DJ Moore. He's going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know they just won. I don't think, however, it will continue that they'll stay in the winning column. I think it was one of those, like, not like a freak win over the Colts, but definitely a much needed win that they kind of just let out. It was going to happen at any point in the season, but I'm still not really high on the Jaguars. Jaguars, excuse me. Um, I'm not giving up on Caleb yet. He was drafted first overall for the Bears for a reason. I know he hasn't looked great at times, but at the same time, he hasn't looked as bad as other quarterbacks. He's not as good as Jaden Daniels, who's picked second overall, but I think Caleb Williams definitely has potential, and with the weapons he has around him, as long as he can utilize them against the Jacksonville defense that I don't think is that good, I think he'll do pretty well. DJ Moore's also coming off a great game last week against Carolina, his revenge game. He had 2 touchdowns. He was unstoppable. He gave me 27 fantasy points. I think he should continue to perform well, and I have him starting again this week at my wide receiver too. If you have him, definitely start him. I don't think the Jaguars are that good, so I have him right there, just outside the top 5. But I think he's going to be really good against that Jags D this week. So I got AJ Brown at 5, DJ Moore at 6, and then kind of sticking with what you said with Jaden Reed, I have him at 7.
All right. I'm gonna actually switch my rankings here. Originally, I had DJ Moore at 6, but I'm gonna move Jaden Reed up to 6. Um, it's really hard to ignore that, Jaden Reed has been the number one option on a team with like probably the number one quarterback. Like you could probably make the argument that he's the number one quarterback in the league, Jordan Love, at least for pass catchers. Like, I mean, I don't know. They're about to play against the Arizona Cardinals, and I just think they're gonna have their way. I mean,
Such a
Jordan Love,
confusing team. The Cardinals are such a confused. I can't figure them out. They
yeah. I
beat
mean, like,
like the crap out of some teams and then get blown out by others. It just doesn't make any sense.
yeah, but I don't think they're gonna beat the crap out of the Packers. I
No.
think the Packers are gonna beat the crap out of the Cardinals, and every time Jordan Love throws the ball, it almost seems like it's gonna be a completion. Now I know he's had interceptions this year, but I mean, that's really mainly been against the Minnesota Vikings, and they're just such an elite defense. So you can't really knock him for that. But I mean, in the last 10 minutes, he did his thing. But I think the Arizona Cardinals, he's not going to be throwing interceptions. I think he's going to be throwing touchdowns, and most of it's going to be going to Jaden Reed. And then since we're speaking of DJ Moore, I'm going to move him down to number 7, and I just think this is because of Caleb Williams is starting to find his mojo, and yeah, I just think DJ Moore is going to start to be a top option for you rest of season. You drafted him in the third or fourth round and thinking that he might be that high upside player, which he is, and he's now starting to show it. So Jaden Reed at 6, and then DJ Moore at 7 for me.
Yeah. So DJ Moore is a little bit further down for me, but just so we don't mix it up, I'll just say my top 7 that I mentioned so far. Jamar Chase at 1, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 2, CeeDee Lamb at 3, AJ Brown at 4, Jaden Reed at 5, Drake London at 6, Malik Neighbors at 7. Now, my number 8, where was more for you guys? Sorry.
Seven
I
for
had him at
me.
6. DJ Moore
Okay.
was 6.
So Moore is actually my number 11. Obviously it's a little on the low side. Um, I honestly am regretting it a little bit, but I'm gonna stick with my ranking for now. Jacksonville has obviously not been great so far this season. They got the big win against the Colts, but I said earlier on the show that their defense is still in a lot of trouble. And I could definitely see DJ Moore balling out, definitely being higher than my number 11 ranking. But for now, I'm going to keep him there. My number 8, I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs against the New England Patriots, with Nico Collins potentially out with a hamstring issue. Nico's been, I think he's been the number one receiver in fantasy this year, which is crazy to say, but
Yes, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
yes.
it has been him. Now, I don't think that Stephon Diggs will be the number one receiver like in fantasy for this week and maybe the week after, however long Nico is out, even if he is out. But I think he has shown over the years that he's perfectly capable of playing as a wide receiver one. And now he has that opportunity again. First he did it with the Vikings, then he did it with the Bills. And now he has that shot as the wide receiver one for the Houston Texans, who are in a really, really good spot right now. One of the best teams in the league. And I'm really excited for him this week against New England, who is one of the worst teams in the league. It's as simple as that. So Stephon Diggs at number 8.
Yeah, I'll just go to my number 8 quickly. I'm definitely a little bit lower on AJ Brown than you guys are, but AJ Brown's going to be at number 8 for me. I think it's not really to disrespect AJ Brown as a player because I think, if we're talking about wide receivers, like he's definitely more talented than some of the names I've mentioned in the top seven. But I do think it's really just going back to the quarterback. I mean, Jalen Hurts is just the interception throwing machine. He turns the ball over a lot, and that's definitely just going to diminish, I would say, the ceiling of AJ Brown. I don't think it really hurts his floor that much, but the overall ceiling, I don't really think it's there right now. He had 22 points in his first game, so that is really good. But I mean, I don't know. Like I need to see more from Jalen Hurts. I need to see him be smarter with throwing the ball. And I need to really see that connection. Like the connection is already there, obviously, but I just think with AJ Brown, some of the other guys I mentioned, I don't see him doing better than those guys going into week 6. That's my number
Yeah.
8.
Yeah, for sure. Kind of working backwards too, just based off of players that you guys have mentioned. Um, you kind of mentioned Hunter DJ Moore being like kind of low with you, but sticking with that ranking. I know I didn't mention this earlier, but Drake London is kind of like that player for me. But I'm gonna stick with him kind of lower. I do have him making the top 10. Last week he fell outside of the top 10 for me. Was moving up in the rankings, but maybe 11 or 12, kind of an honorable mention or outside of that top 10, but I have him at 10 this week. We'll work our way down the list, but you did mention Stephon Diggs. I have him at 9. Um, and for a lot of the same reasons, cracking the top 10, going up against the Patriots. I mean, he's going to be the number one target now, especially in Houston. Houston's been good this year, but I think they can be better. Nico Collins has been a big reason why they've had success, though. Like you said, he's the number one receiver in fantasy this year. He's injured now. He's not going to play next week. Diggs, like you said, has had experience, I guess you could say, being a wide receiver one in both Minnesota and in Buffalo. I don't think this is something that he will fail at, especially against the Patriots. I mean, his matchup will be like Christian Gonzalez, which I think he should definitely win. I think it's going to be a good week for Stephon Diggs, but working backwards, I have at number 8 Garrett Wilson going up against the Bills. And the reason I have him at 8 is because, as I mentioned in our running back rankings video, the New York Jets want to make a statement. They fired their head coach this morning as we record this Tuesday night. Robert Saleh is gone. He's out the door. They have their defensive coordinator now as the interim head coach. But they're what? Under 500, right? They're 2-3. They just lost back-to-back weeks to Denver and Minnesota. Sam Darnold. They're not happy. I mean, they're not happy. And I think this is going to be a statement win in Monday Night Football in prime time. They need to beat a divisional rival, get back to 500. It's not going to be easy. Buffalo is going to give them problems. But I think if they want to win this game, and I think they will do what they can, Aaron Rodgers, even at his age, like he may not have the best legs anymore, and he may, be 40 years old, but he still has a great arm, and he will still find Garrett Wilson. He targeted Garrett Wilson 22 times last week. If he finds Garrett Wilson and things are working offensively for the Jets, Brees Hall starts going, Garrett Wilson starts going. Maybe in a couple weeks we'll be talking about Devontae Adams in that offense. Maybe we'll see. I think this team will be kind of back on track, and maybe they just needed that, you know, spark or needed that kind of aha, moment. And maybe it was firing Robert Saleh to kind of push them over the edge. So I have Garrett Wilson at 8. I think again this is going to be a statement from the New York Jets. I'm a Giants fan, obviously, but I think the Jets will potentially have their best game of the season yet, and it will come this week against the Bills. Again, the Bills, they've looked like the best team, through the first 2 or 3 weeks, and then, you know, weren't able to beat the Baltimore Ravens, and then things didn't go as planned, but now they got to face the New York Jets. The Jets could win this game. The Bills could win this game. It's really going to be up in the air, but I don't think the Jets want to go down 2-4. I think they want to, even things up, get back on track, new head coach, kind of, hit the restart button. And if they want to win this game, it's going to start with Garrett Wilson. So I got him at 8, and I have Stephon Diggs at 9.
All right. I already mentioned my 8, so I'll just go right to 9. I got Stephon Diggs at 9, and it's really for all the reasons that Adam mentioned. So I'll just go. I'll mention my 10 as well because we've talked about him. It's Garrett Wilson again for all the reasons that Adam stated. I think behind Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson's also going to be a focal point of this offense. I mean, it's really the focal points of the offense really should be Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, and you can mix in Tyler Conklin a little bit in there too because he seems to be a pretty good tight end. So, but yeah, when we're talking about wide receivers, Stephon Diggs is going to be my 9 just because better matchup in New England Patriots. I know they got Christopher Gonzalez on that secondary, but that's really all you need to worry about. And plus, Stephon Diggs playing in the slot, it's a position for him to succeed. Garrett Wilson, same thing. I think he's really just gonna shine against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so I'll just start with Garrett Wilson. He's actually at number 12 for me. I really liked how he played against the Vikings. Really got to see that Rodgers to Wilson connection. I don't know if he's going to be able to replicate that against the Bills, but I still think that he'll do good enough. Probably get around 14 fantasy points. I think that's a fair estimate. But pretty much for all the reasons both of you guys said, big target volume for him on a Jets offense that is definitely struggling at this point. And targets are the biggest part of fantasy football for wide receivers and PPR leagues, and he has that for sure. But my number 9, it's someone we have not mentioned yet. I don't even know if he's going to be in your guys' top 12. But I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin here. This one's a little strange. Yeah, got some eyebrow raisers there for sure. Yeah, I mean, going into the season, we saw Jahan Dotson ghost the Eagles, and we're like, all right, Terry's the only guy left on the Commanders, and he had a really down year last year, I believe. So your last year, the year before. So I was thinking like, oh, Jane Daniels has no weapons. I don't think he's probably. I'd probably pick Caleb Williams over Jane Daniels for like rookie of the year, just from preseason. But Terry McLaurin has proven that he's definitely a startable player in fantasy football. I wouldn't say he's a wide receiver like 1, but I'd say he's probably a very high end wide receiver 2. Obviously, his number 9 ranking puts him at a wide receiver 1, depending on assuming you're in a 10-man league or higher. But especially for this week, I think he's going to play really well against Baltimore secondary. Obviously, Baltimore has a good secondary overall. They have crazy amount of talent back there with Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton, rookie Nate Wiggins, who was my preseason pick to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's off to a great start so far. But I definitely could see Terry getting through the lanes there. Between those three guys, no problem. Not no problem, but I could definitely see him having a good week this week. So that's kind of
Yeah,
stuff. But yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mentioned my 10 previously. Um, talk about eyebrow raisers. I said Drake London. I'm sticking with him at 10. So just to recap the last couple picks for me, I had Jaden Reed at 7, Garrett Wilson at 8, Stephon Diggs at 9, and I do have Drake London at 10. I guess I'll just kind of go 10, 11, 12 because I don't have much notes on 11 and 12. And I'll let you guys do the same. But the reason I have Drake London a little bit lower, um, maybe
Because you
it's
hate Drake London.
maybe it's I didn't want to mention it because I'm trying to stay professional, Mark. But maybe it's a personal bias because he maybe killed me last week and all of last season. But also, he did prove it. And I didn't have him in my top 10 last week, but it's a compliment, Mark. I complimented your guy. I put him at number 10. I put him in the top 10. I'm sticking with that. He did well in prime time against Tampa Bay. It's one game. Hopefully he can continue. It seems like he is trending upward, so that's a positive sign. Hopefully this time next week I have him, 5, 6, 7, where maybe even top 5, right? Maybe even 4, 3. You never know, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you never know. You never know. Like you said before we started recording, he's going to go for 700 yards this week. So it's the Panthers. I think it's a favorable matchup. I don't really want to go further in depth in Drake London, but I think he's a really good option. And I think, is he better than guys like Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson? I don't think so. Even against Carolina, I don't think so. I'm sorry. But I do think this time next week he will continue to move up the ranks for me. But I do have him in the top 10. And while I'm on it, I'll just hit 11 and 12 real quick. I got Brandon Ayuk 11 against the Seahawks, Mike Evans at 12 against the Saints. That rounds out my receiver rankings. I'll let you guys do the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead,
You
Hunter.
want to go over? Go ahead. Go ahead.
You want me to go? Okay.
Go for it,
All
Mark.
right. I agree with Adam. Brandon Ayuk at 11. I know that Seahawks have Devin Witherspoon on the secondary, but ultimately
Enrique Woolen.
I don't really think it matters that much. They haven't really like shown me that they're like a great secondary, especially when you allow the New York Giants to do what they did to you. Like I don't know. I mean, like we're talking about Darius Slayton here, but yeah,
Come on. He's like Drake London good. What are you talking about?
no, he's not.
Hey, you're gonna rip
He's
me, I'm gonna rip you back. Like,
he's a good player, but like
nah.
cool the Jets here.
It should have been Malik Neighbors. That should have been Malik
My
Neighbors.
point is for Brandon Ayuk is that if the Giants can get it done without Malik Neighbors, the 49ers can absolutely get it done with Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk is going to be the focal point of that on the receiving end. And then number 12 is going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't really have a huge reason as why he's 12. I just really think it comes down to talent, and it's going to come down to the fact that I think Kyler Murray is going to have to rely on Marvin Harrison Jr. a little bit more this game in order to get the offense going. And I don't think James Conner, he's really good, but I don't think he's going to be able to get it done just solely on the running end. I think you're going to need to utilize Marvin Harrison Jr. in this game to win. So that's it for me.
Yeah. So I only have one spot left that I haven't mentioned. It's my number 10 pick. It's Mike Evans. Mike Evans, top 10 wide receiver. Like you can't really, you automatically really have to put him in your top 10 no matter who he's facing. At least that's my opinion. The most consistent receiver I've ever seen. First ballot Hall of Famer, 1,000 yards every single season. I will mention it every single time that I speak about him. I think he's on pace to have it again this year. He's definitely been on the quieter side so far compared to last season, but I think he'll still get it. Um, he definitely has a history with one of the Saints cornerbacks. Marshawn Lattimore has been banged up recently. I don't know if he's going to play, but I don't know if you guys remember. I know Adam does.
Yeah.
OBJ and Josh Norman in 2015 when
Yep.
Josh Norman was an all-pro corner that one year and then just dipped off the
That
face
was
of the.
the Carolina, and then the year after he went to Commanders or Redskins at the time.
Yeah.
right? Like he that one matchup against Carolina, they were just going back and forth. And then when he went to Washington and went in division the next year, everybody was like, oh boy, just get ready. We're going to circle those 2 games against Washington on the calendar for when OBJ has to go up against Norm. It wasn't as bad as that Carolina game,
No,
but
not at all.
oh my God. Yeah, of course I remember that.
So that's the thing. You remember a game that happened 9 years ago now.
Yep. Yep.
Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans, every time they go against each other, it's pretty much kind of like that, but
Sure.
obviously it's not as memorable.
Yeah.
I've actually had this debate with people many times on what's like the better like matchup, but I think it might be Lattimore and Evans just because it was more frequent. It's much more of a sample size, but anyways, even if Lattimore plays, I could see Evans being a top 10 wide receiver. If Lattimore does play, I could also see them getting in some sort of fight because they have,
Hmm.
I think they both have been ejected like in the same game at least 2 or 3 times, if I had to guess. So I'm definitely excited for that matchup. And that rounds up my top 12.
All right, so
Okay.
let's go through our 1 through 12 picks to remind everybody who we had at number 1 for wide receivers going into week 6, and at number 12. Hunter, if you want to start, and we'll work our way around, and then we'll wrap this up.
Yeah. My number 1, we are going to go with Jamar Chase against the New York Giants. Number 2. Well, yeah, hold on. What?
No, I was saying, like, just read your list, and then I'll read my
Okay,
list.
you
Mark
said like
reads,
we go with number 1
and
and
then
then
we'll
we'll
just,
go
yeah.
around. Whatever it's all
No,
okay.
no. Just read your entire list. I'll read mine, or Mark reads his. I'll read mine, and then we'll
All right,
wrap it
ready?
up.
Here we go.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
All
Start
right.
again. Start again. Yeah.
All right. Number 1 on my list for wide receivers for week 6, we're going to go with Jamar Chase versus the New York Giants. Number 2, we're going to go Amon-Ra St. Brown versus the Dallas Cowboys. Number 3, we're going to go with CeeDee Lamb versus the Detroit Lions. Number 4, we're going to go with A.J. Brown versus the Cleveland Browns. That's pretty funny. Number 5, Jaden Daniels. My bad. Jaden Reed versus the Arizona Cardinals. Number 6, Drake London versus the Carolina Panthers. Number 7, Malik Neighbors versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Number 8, Stephon Diggs versus the New England Patriots. Number 9, Terry McLaurin versus the Baltimore Ravens. Number 10, Mike Evans versus the New Orleans Saints. Number 11, DJ Moore versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. And number 12, Garrett Wilson versus the Buffalo Bills.
There you go. Mark, if you want to read yours.
Yeah, we'll just go through it real quickly. Number 1, it's gonna be Jamar Chase playing the New York Giants. Number 2 is gonna be Amon-Ra St. Brown for me. Number 3 is gonna be CeeDee Lamb. Number 4, it's gonna be Malik Neighbors for me. Number 5, Drake London. Number 6, Jaden Reed. Number 7, DJ Moore. Number 8, AJ Brown. Number 9, Stephon Diggs. 10, Garrett Wilson. Number 11, Brandon Ayuk. And number 12, Marvin Harrison Jr.
There it is. All right, I'll read mine real quick. I have Jamar Chase at 1, CeeDee Lamb at 2, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 3, Malik Neighbors at 4, AJ Brown at 5, DJ Moore at 6, Jaden Reed at 7, Garrett Wilson 8, Stephon Diggs at 9, Drake London at 10. I know. Brandon Ayuk at 11, and Mike Evans rounding out the list at 12, going up against Marshawn Lattimore and the New Orleans Saints. So that pretty much recaps everything: running backs and receiver rankings, our waiver wire claims ahead of week 6. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Again, it helps out our YouTube algorithm. That way you can get all your information, all your news, who to pick up, who to start, who to sit, where we should rank, running backs, receivers, tight ends, etc. It helps out if you subscribe. Blitz Banter, just subscribe. Make sure you like the videos. It does help out the YouTube algorithm. And if you're not following us on Instagram already, Blitz Banter Pod, we got memes there, and we have our rankings more in depth. Some great graphics that we're putting together there as well. Thanks again so much for watching, and best of luck to your teams this week in week 6.